So everybody's good. It's rainy, it's fall here, and I'm good because I'm not out there in the rain and the fall. It's really nice to see everybody. Today, I don't know if you guys saw the blurb, or, well, you're here, so you probably did, that Nalini sends out. And I try to, she said, what are you going to talk about? Because she said, I need to put something on the thing. And then I have to look at the thing that she sent out so that I know that I keep my promise. And what the write-up said was, I remember when I believed what I do not believe now. I remember seeing things totally differently. I remember being so certain that my perceptions were accurate. It was just like everything was as I saw it. I thought I was right about my beliefs. And I remember not knowing anything, nothing. And that's been my journey. And I think that's a really important experience for us to go through. And sometimes when you're very young, you don't have that experience yet, or you have it a little bit. But if you've lived a little while, at least like I have, you know you've questioned many things in your life. And the wisest thing for us to do, I believe, in our contemplation of ourselves is to ask ourselves what we believe in. So, if you've seen those things where people, news people, will go down the street and they'll ask people what they believe in, and people are, kind of shocked, because if I asked you right now to tell me what you believe in, I'm pretty sure that all of you would pause, and then you'd come up with something that was in your bias. We all have biases from our families and the culture that we're in. We have some kind of bias. Like, I would guess that this group would probably have some kind of Christian bias, even if you weren't raised in a religion, because culturally, this is a pretty Christian-based country, where if you were in India, it would be totally different. Your bias would be totally different, or just many countries. So that's the thing. But, it's not only do you believe in God, or what does God mean to you? It's like, do you believe in the things that you believe about yourself, or are they just habitual thinking? I often talk about, because I remember so vividly of being in my 20s and being so certain about things. And it was very empowering. And I watch my granddaughters, who are all in their 20s, 20 up to 24. And I watch they're not cocky. I just watch their certainty. And I think we need that. We need that certainty when we're stepping out the world to make our own life, to create the life that we need to create outside of our family unit. So the universe gives us this period of some kind of certainty, and thank God. And I remember feeling certain about so many things. And even older, I remember being in my 30s and being certain. And I don't know when I realized that I started questioning, or I just didn't feel as certain about. Maybe I didn't know as much as I thought I did. Everybody's experienced that, I think, all of us. And it's only when you question what it is that you believe, what you believe about life, what you believe about yourself, that you can come to any truth about what it is that you believe. What are you about? And that's really the journey of life. I mean, some people call it enlightenment. Some people say they just want to be happy, whatever it is. But I think the underlying thing about our search, whatever we think we're searching for, is some kind of knowing of what we believe in, some kind of certainty about our place in the grand scheme of things. What's my part in the universe? Why am I here? That kind of thing. We go through those things. So I think about that a lot, about how our biases take us along a line of a certain way of thinking. And then as we get exposed to the world, to different things, we start realizing that maybe we really don't think that way. Maybe we don't really see things that way. And there can be periods of really doubt and confusion. Because, when you let go of a belief, there's a blank spot because you haven't quite filled in the gap with a new belief, a new way of seeing. You just look at something, you say, I don't really see people that way. I don't really see that I have to be that way, but I don't know what the new way of me being is. It's like there's confusion. I now realize I don't have to be that way, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be. I don't really believe that I've always thought I believed, but I don't know what I believe now. Have you ever experienced that? Yeah. I think, you can't get past, I don't know, 30 and not have big doses of that, big doses of that. And it's kind of nice to relax in your belief system, at least I think. I remember, I think it was in the 80s, which made me a lot younger than I am now. And I went to Sedona to, I was working with a company that did seminars, Human Potential. I'd never been to Sedona before. And I had this experience because in the 80s, the conversations that we have quite out in the open, mainstream, just weren't readily available. If you did meditation, you talked about meditation in the group you were in. If you followed aliens and spaceship, you talked about it with those people. If you did auras and stuff, you didn't just talk about it. It was not something that was just readily known by everybody. And I had not been exposed to a lot of those things before. I was in Human Potential, which was a good start. But when I was in Sedona, I remember going to the grocery store. We went to the grocery store to get a bunch of stuff for the place we were living in. And standing in line, I heard some amazing conversations. I mean, people were literally talking about meeting together because the spaceships were coming and they were doing this. And I'm going, in my head, I'm going, these people are nuts, And then I come around the corner and in the big hotel we were in, and there was a couple students over in the corner, and I stopped and I said, "What are you guys doing?" And she says, "I'm fluffing her aura." And that was so foreign to me because I had not been exposed to any of that. And so what I said, well, she needs to learn how to fluff her own aura, because we were teaching personal responsibility. So that seemed like the perfect reply at the time. But since then, I've been exposed to everything. But what I decided after that visit, because I kept running into things that were so foreign to me that I was wasting my energy deciding in the moment if I believed it or not, or if I accepted it or not. And I don't know what happened to me, but at some point, I just went, this is ridiculous. I don't have to decide anything. So I just started listening without making any, not coming to a belief or an opinion, just this. And I just started listening. And that kind of changed my whole idea of having to believe or not believe in something, and then looking at my own self to see what was real and true for me, what was real and true for me. And so we can do that in everything that in all areas of our life, we can do that in our belief systems. Nowadays, now that I'm a spiritual teacher, I meet a lot of people. I don't know how many times I've heard somebody say, I'm a recovering Catholic. I don't know why the Catholics get beat up. They don't usually say I'm a recovering Methodist. It's always I'm a recovering Catholic. So I know what they're saying. And I always hope that they'll get past that and not label it as such. They're just expanding their belief systems and their exposure to thoughts, to ideas and thoughts. And that's what we need to do. Do you agree? I was with a man once that said, I was with some friends, and this man said, we were talking about a guru and their group and what they were doing. It was all positive with what we felt, because the small group was there. And he spoke up and said, well, I only believe in Jesus, and that's the only teacher there is. That's it. And what was interesting to me is I knew this man wasn't religious at all. I don't know that he even thought about God in his life, and he didn't practice anything, but that was a conditioning for him. That was a fallback. That was a conditioning for him that he never questioned. And I think in order for us to figure out what it is that we believe, we have to question. And it's okay to question, and we don't have to be disrespectful when we're questioning. We just look at something and say, where did I get that idea? Where did I get that idea that things are this way? And if I look at it, are things this way? Or is that just something that somehow I picked up along the way? And if you ask me, I say that's the way it is. But if you really ask me, maybe that's not really my truth. And I think we all need to do that. We need to ask ourselves, what is it that we believe? Or when we find something that we feel we do believe, where did we get that? Where did we get that idea? Do you have anything like that? Does it ever come up for you? Sharon? Yeah. I think you're on mute.
I went to Catholic school for 12 years. And all my family was Catholic. All my neighbors were Catholic. All my friends were Catholic. Everything was Catholic. So I went to college, and it was in the October of the freshman year. I'm walking down the street going home from school, and it hits me like a frying pan on the top of the head that not everyone in this world is Catholic. And I have to frame my thinking and responses in terms of to whom I'm speaking. This was like an eye-opener for me, because this was like a new world. And that was a really big, evolutionary step in my thinking about responding to people and that kind of thing. And I was lucky that one of my majors was anthropology, because that really helped crack open a lot of that. But as as a person who's 70 now, I feel like what Ram Dass says is kind of the perfect thing. Like there's one gardener, but there's one garden, but many gardeners. And I just love that expression because that really, to me, says it.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Yeah. But it doesn't even have to be about our belief in God. It just can be our belief in human beings and cultures and races in, yes, Nalini?
Oh, well, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Um, I was working a wedding yesterday and I found a lot of beliefs like coming up based off of like emotions that I felt. So like if somebody said something to me in not the nicest of ways, it would cause this emotional reaction in my body and then it would put like a story to it. So I just had these like hardwired beliefs popping up and I could see it and I had to like kind of talk myself out of that. But it's like that's how it happens for me with beliefs that I see the most. It's like I'll feel something first, and then I find myself believing something based off of something because I'm feeling an emotion.
Yeah, our emotions trigger the feeling, and the feeling brings up a belief that we have. I mean, we don't really think of the belief before it's triggered. Somebody says something or does something that might not even have anything to do with us, but we look at it or, we experience, and then we have a reaction based on a belief system. I think that's what happens with people with cultures. I've met so many people that talk about how it's not that they were racist, but they were raised culturally in whatever their culture was. And so they had these opinions about other races, other cultures. And then as they grew up and maybe went to college or, went into the work world, they started meeting these people that they'd heard things about that were like this, whatever this is. And they found out that that wasn't so. And that's when you start questioning your beliefs and ask yourself, what is my experience? Like, what is my experience of those people and that culture? And, is that what my bias from my family, whatever, created for me? And so we expand in that. Yes, Nolly.
What if your experience shows truth to the belief, or like it's almost like a proof of the belief, or it feels like proof to the belief?
Well, that's always that's always going to happen because first of all, we see what we believe. We know that. So we can find proof. If we feel like people don't like us, we are going to walk through life feeling like people don't like us because that's how we're going to interpret our experiences. We know that. So we can prove it, the belief. We can always prove a belief or unprove a belief if you really think about it. So I don't know what kind of belief you were talking about, but if you believe people are, people are this way, say people are, I don't know, people are mean, and then somebody's mean to you, you go, see there, I have proof. But you really don't have proof, you just proved it to yourself because that's the way you looked at it. Doesn't mean they're not mean people out there, but if you meet a mean person, if I meet a mean person, it's probably not going to hurt my feelings, but I don't want anything to do with them. It's not going to hurt my feelings, but who wants to hang out with a mean person? But my personal belief system is not that people are mean, but this person has a mean behavior. This person does, So I'm not sure what you mean. That's the best way I can answer it, unless you're getting at something else.
Well, it's like if I have a belief that this person has a mean behavior, I'll find myself It is. It's just that I'm seeing what I'm believing. So it's like I will interpret their behaviors more often as mean because I've had the experience of them being mean before. So even when they're maybe frustrated at something that has nothing to do with me, because I've felt an emotion of hurt based off of that mean behavior in the past, like it's easier for me to feel like they're a mean person.
Yeah. So what do you do about it?
I obsessively think over it for days.
Does that, how does that work for you?
It's tiring.
That, see, that's when we go, that's what, you know, the story, we've talked about it so much, you know, that's just when we have to take personal responsibility and say, okay, this guy's a jerk and he just behaved like a jerk, but why is it bothering me? You know, and another person was there and experienced it's not bothering them. So it's really not about them, even if they truly were behaving like a jerk. The question is, why does it bother me? You know, and it doesn't make you wrong, but there's something going on within us that we react in a certain way. So if we feel like people are mean to us, you know, what is it about us that has that experience that people are mean to us? I think if people were too mean to me, I'd just pop them in the nose. I mean, I don't know, but not everybody's like that, you know. I shouldn't say that. You can edit that part out, Nolani. But you guys know what I mean. You don't put up with certain nonsense, but you have to ask yourself, what is it that I believe about myself or the world that I'm having this reaction to this person in this situation, but the people around me aren't? You know, how many times have you been with somebody, your friends, and you meet somebody and you have some kind of exchange and the person walks off and your friend says, can you believe that person? My God, what a jerk. And you go, huh? I didn't notice anything, because we have different seeing, you know. And when we dig those scenes, dig into those, the way those scenes, the way we see things, then we come up with beliefs about ourselves. Yeah, yeah.
Good morning. I have to tell you, it was just really refreshing for you to say you didn't have to make a decision in the moment. So I'm a quick processor, and if somebody says something, I have a habit of like, yes or no, believe it or not, fight him or not, friend or foe or whatever, and it comes up really quick for me. And I don't know, I just found it really freeing that I could just sit there and be like, they can have their life and their opinion and their choice, and I can just sit there and be an observer to it and a listener. And it doesn't even have to hit my radar, especially because it's not important. And how much can I release of these structure? I used to think it was structure. Like I could, this is me, this is not me. I guess they call it, like shadow work, I guess, right? This is me, this is not me. But what if I don't have to choose either way? Like, I'm just going to totally go with that. I've been cleaning my house lately, so I'm not surprised that the way of all the things you took, like what I took was, oh, I could get rid of garbage, because that's where I'm at right now. I'm really excited about it, honestly. But yeah, it's very refreshing, the idea that you guys can have opinions, and I can just be like, oh, that's Melanie's opinion, or that's your opinion, or that's Sharon's opinion, and I can just love you for having your opinion and your view of the world and not have it in my reality and make a choice. That's tremendous power, I think, right now. So thank you.
Well, it's a great deal of freedom when
Yeah.
you don't have to make a decision about everything, whether you believe in it or not. And I'm really big on that. What's your opinion about that? I don't know.
Which is probably why you're so light. Like, I feel like all this weight is on me all the time, and I'm just can't wait until I could be like, lose that. That'll be kind of
yeah. Well, good.
Yeah, let's see if I can do it for the rest of the day, even let alone tomorrow.
Well, it is habitual,
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
agree that
yeah,
you change your habits.
yeah. So, you can change habits. It is habitual to have an opinion about everything. Why do you have to have an opinion? You don't have to have an opinion of everything. And sometimes people want you to have an opinion just because they want to have a fight. It's like, not playing.
I noticed that, oddly enough, I hate to say, when I go to sports bars with somebody and they're like, what team do you want to be? And I like pick the other team if they're the kind of person that enjoys that combativeness. And if they like teamwork, then I join the same team because I don't care about sports. And so, yeah, I agree with you. Like I can be flexible, I guess, in some of my choices. But then maybe I choose stuff and then I'm not really attached or invested to it. Then it's just gunk in your system, right? Like, I don't know.
What about your place in the universe? I mean, that's a huge question.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it doesn't have to be so huge that we can't think about it. What about your place in just the scheme of things? What kind of belief do you have around that? That cleaning some of that up, old biases, can give you a lot of freedom and a lot of peace if you have a lot of like restrictive thinking or it's not about it's not about well, I'm not telling you what to believe. It's not about that. It's about knowing yourself. What is it how do you see yourself in the cosmos?
Well,
how do you see yourself?
As you asked that, I thought, oh my God, all this static is around from all these other people's beliefs. Like I go to this restaurant, I'm like, hey waitress, what do you like? Like I don't actually choose a lot of things for myself. I'm actually just working on that right now. So I'm not surprised that you call me to do that. I am going to definitely work on both things, to release the things that really have no importance to me and to really figure out what do I value about that. Like I'm starting to value my eccentric nature, and I'm starting to value that that I'm a leader more, and I'm starting to understand how I like to be more compassionate and universal loving than like right now, like an intimate relationship I have no interest in right now. And why that's happening, I'm sure it's safer to be like out in the universe that way with those values. And it's funny what I'm choosing right now. And I think as I work to clean up on my values on who I want to be, which is like who you are in the universe, basically, as I'm formulating that, you're right. A lot of it is going to shed away. I just never thought about it that way.
Well, I just want to give you one tip about values, because the one mistake people make when they're trying to figure out their values is that they think they choose values that they think that they should want to be. Like if they're naturally not a leader, not everybody is. And the world needs followers. So there's no problem with that.
Yes.
But some people will think that they have to be a leader. So that'll be their value, but their life doesn't show that they're a leader. If they ever get put in that role, they're not happy. They don't feel fulfilled. So when you think about your values, I mean, I don't want to go into that conversation, but I just wanted to remind you that when you think about your values, you think about, you check yourself out and see what's real and important to you. Like if somebody is into security and safety and they want things organized, they should acknowledge that that's a value that they have. And if you look in their life, you will see that structure is there. But if a person is an adventurer and loves to live spontaneously, they will not be in that person's partnership. They'll be someplace else.
Yeah.
Because that's a value for them, the freedom of adventure. And so when you're thinking about your values, remember that. Don't try to pick one that you think you're supposed to grow up and be. Because
that. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because you have great values. You just have to define them. You find them, so then you can build on them. But those are belief systems also. So
I agree. They're belief systems. Yeah. And you can choose to walk into it or not with every choice. I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
And do you think that mostly people take on the say the beliefs of the 5 people around them, or do you feel like who they are is radiates or vibrates at this level and then they attract the people, or do you think it's both?
Well, I do believe the concept that I don't know if it's belief systems, but it's way of being. So of the 5 people or so, the group that we hang out with, we can't not, it's very hard not to become like the people that we hang out with. And so
I want to be with the people I hang out with here.
well, I make sure that I'll tell you what, I make sure that I hang out with people like you, because I like to be with conscious people that are just doing the best they can and wanting to know themselves better, because that is our life's journey, is to know ourselves better. And that's why we look at things like values, or we look at belief systems, and we change our belief systems about things. You know, at my age, I look and I had this whole other idea about how my life was going to be. Totally different than it is. Absolutely different. And I had a belief that way that I had planned, it was a good plan. It was lovely. And I believed that that's the way it was supposed to be. Had no idea that my life would turn out this way, or that I would turn out this way. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And there have been some bumps along the way, but you know, it's the best thing. But I think that's how our beliefs change. And I think it's important to ask ourselves, where are we in our belief systems as far as a higher power? And then look at that so that you can, that's a really important aspect of our belief system. You don't have to get into a path or a religion or a church. It's just, what is your relationship, you know, with what you see as somehow greater than you. And the reason I say that is I can't imagine this group of people thinking there isn't something, you know, something. And where do you fit in with that? Because when you look at that and start discovering how you think, you know, how you've been thinking, you can see how things that you set up in your life that relate to that way of seeing how you're supposed to be. I had the experience once of being totally, what would the word you use? Being in a spiritual group where I was totally ostracized. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was so shocking, though. At the moment, I went, what? And then I realized, oh, my relationship with that group has nothing to do with my relationship with what some people call God and I call Great Spirit. And that's really my goal for people, is to it doesn't matter to me if they're Catholic, Baptist, or Buddhist, or whatever, as long as our job in this life is to get to the place where we really accept ourselves, you know, for the way that we are. And we all know there's areas that it would be good if we like polished them up a bit, you know, or something. And so we just work on that and we keep getting better. But the goal isn't to get better. The goal is to feel better in the moment. You know, people say love themselves. But, I think when you say, well, the object is for us to love ourselves, I agree. But that's almost abstract. What about if we start with liking ourselves? I think there's a whole different energy to that. And in fact, it takes more responsibility to like yourself, because of course you're supposed to love yourself. Everybody knows that. I love you and I love me and but I don't know about liking myself. I want you all to say, I like me. Yeah, there's some things I could, whatever, but so what? And there's a whole bunch of things that are really, I'm fine and I'm growing and I'm remembering how I used to be. I'm better now, happier now. I have a better viewpoint. That's a lot to say, I remember how I used to be and I'm doing okay. It's really important. It's really, really important to remember that. So now you got to figure out how to like yourself. Yes, Nalini.
I've been getting these messages that are reminding me to remember that like it's a co-creative process with the universe, or that everything happens right on time, and that it's not about like when I want something to happen. Like there's other factors at play. But I find myself so often feeling like I have to make something happen. Like I really have to be the one to do it. And if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. And then there's just all this pressure, and it turns into like a lot of self-criticism when I don't see the results that I was hoping to create.
Yeah, that's I love that expression that everything happens right on time. I don't know who coined it. I remember who I heard it on. It was actually on some kind of interview, that everything happens right on time. And the idea, we're geared for accomplishing things. Okay, if you want it done, you just got to do it. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just get it done. And if is to be, it's up to be, and all that. But if I haven't, if you look back at your life and you think, what is my lesson? Because we don't get new lessons, guys. I'm telling you all, we get the same lesson. Each one of us has something, and we get it repetitively. It just shows up in different ways. And one of the lessons that I have had to learn, and I think I've been doing a pretty good job, but it took a heart surgery to do it, but it worked, is to quit thinking that everything's on your time scale. And that if something has to be done, you got to do it. I got to do it. I got to do it. And I got to do it now. I got to push and push and push. And then you realize we have to take responsibility, but there's this fine line between taking responsibility, which we all need to do, but that's not the same as pushing ourselves. It's like we try to push ourselves to accomplish the thing that we think that we are supposed to accomplish, and that it's not going to get accomplished if we don't do the doing. And I do believe we have to do things, but there's this fine line, there's a balance. I think Westerners are more prone to that. Maybe Americans, because don't Americans have that, what's that expression? We're so independent,
Rugged individualists.
Rugged individualists. Yeah, that's us. Okay. But I can get really
It sounds so
exhausting.
sad, doesn't it? Like rugged individualist. Arr. I've been noticing that somebody gave me a little Christmas gift. It was like a $2 plaque, and it said "Go with the flow." And I thought, darn it, like I gotta, because I used to think sally forth, right? Like push yourself through and everything like that. I've been waiting for things to come to me where I just have to then do it. And yeah, it's funny because at some level, I don't feel like I'm getting anything done. But when situations are coming to me now, I'm acting very differently. So I know I've leveled up, I guess. But I'm treating things differently than I would have. Like I'm reacting less and I'm proactive more. And then when something comes up, I make a choice and I do it. And I've stopped trying to force myself, because honestly, I was like, why run uphill when the path could be straight? Like if you're just walking on, like if you're not trying to rush it, you can just walk flat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's hit me a lot, Nalini. So I appreciate when you said that too, because I used to think struggling was part of life, right? So I used to have a limiting belief. You had to struggle to succeed. And yeah, now I think much more slow and steady, like daily practice. I read The Slight Edge recently, so maybe I'm all light edgy, but that's saying a 1% improvement continuously over time is going to build up a strong foundation for you to, excel at. So,
Well, yeah, and be careful about getting stuck. Okay, I just have to continue. I just have to continue.
yes,
Continue.
yes,
I just have
yeah.
to continue. I just
Yeah.
have to continue. We have to be, this is what we have to be careful about trading in. We look at a belief system or a way of being or something, and we go, that really isn't working for me because not getting me what I want, in my life. So I change it. But am I changing it for something that's just going to give me, am I changing one belief system to another belief system that's just restrictive in its own way? Be aware of that. Be aware of that. That's what happens with people when they start, usually when they start doing some kind of awareness trainings. They come out of it like zealots, you got to take this, you got to think like this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And yeah, it's good. I mean, you got something from it, but it's that, and that is natural, and there's nothing wrong with that, because usually people grow out of that as they mature in whatever they're learning. But just be aware of what beliefs. What are you trading in the old belief for? Is it a new belief that's just as restrictive and prohibiting to you? It's just important to pay attention to that. Make sense? Yeah. Yes, Sharon.
I've gotten to the point now in my life where I used to be like, everything has to be done and it has to be done in a certain way. And after lots of heart surgeries and stuff like that, I'll say to myself, well, does it really have to be done? What's going to happen if it's not done? Is that going to be so terrible? So
that's good.
Just reflecting like, wait a minute, don't get crazy here. The other thought I had was about Nalini's thought about the mean people. When people are mean to me, it makes me now, not before. I mean, I was all about getting hurt and pissed and coming up with brilliant things to say to them like 20 minutes later. I just feel sad for them, because it tells me so much more about them than them saying that to me. And I think, wow, sometimes people look all glittery and sparkly and fresh and wow, and inside they're like a black deep hole. And anybody who's mean can't be that happy, because happy people just aren't mean.
It's true. It's a good thing to remember. Yeah.
So I just would say, don't put it on yourself. Turn it back on them.
So your place in the universe. Oh my God. I don't know. It's big. It's big. But we're all there already. And we're doing okay in this big place, this creation, reach, we're doing okay. And you need to remind yourself you're doing okay. We human beings have a terrible habit of grading ourselves, and we don't usually give ourselves A's, So the thing to do is think about all the things you like about yourself, and that you're part of a great, I don't know, it's a universe, a cosmos, it's whatever. Look at some of those pictures from, is it the Weber telescope, the new one? My God, you look at those and you go, well, I'm part of this. This is pretty cool. I don't know quite how I'm part of this, but that's pretty great. So I must be okay too. I must be okay too. Okay, so I want to do a little meditation right now as we end. Anybody have anything else they'd like to share before I start? Okay. And then when I'm through, if you'll just stay on a couple of minutes, because Nalini will share some information that you might be interested in, and it'll only take a minute. So I'm going to softly drum while I say nice things. So if you just sit and close your eyes, and enjoy. We know that something wonderful is about to happen. Just allow the drum to sing to you. And as the drum sings to you, just notice in the center of your heart is a beautiful, thumb-sized blue flame. It's heatless, it's smokeless, this beautiful blue flame. And as you look at it, it sees you and it flickers in delight that you remembered this beautiful thumb-sized blue flame. This is your higher self, the Mula Purusha. This is who you are. That's all your wisdom. And just say to this little beautiful thumb-sized blue flame, "Oh, my soul, I love you so." Oh, my soul, I love you so. And see that blue flame expand out and fill your whole heart, and keep expanding and fills your whole body. And you feel the power, the grace of the spark of God that dwells within you as you you're reminded to love yourself and like yourself and enjoy the journey. Life is good. Everything happens right on time. And anytime you doubt or get lonely, just remember this beautiful thumb-size blue flame in the center of your heart. It's always there. Just take your time. Don't open your eyes quickly. Just take your time. Feel yourself back in your body. Ah. You guys good? Well, I want to say thank you very much for spending the time with me. I just enjoyed it immensely. I think you're all terrific, and it just touches my heart that we can spend time like this together. So go have a wonderful rest of Sunday. And we on the West Coast have quite a bit of Sunday, but Robbie has a lot because she's in Arizona. So thank you all. And Nolani's going to talk to you for a minute. And just know I love you. Bye.
Thank you, Ahalya. As always, that was a really awesome meeting for me. And I thought you guys were such a good group today too, really engaged, and I really appreciate that because the more perspectives that we can have chiming in, the more bountiful the learning can be, and that's personally what I'm here for. So I do love it. Thank you guys. I just wanted to go over every month we do 2 events. So we have the shamanic clinic on the second Tuesday of the month, and then we have this higher self circle on the last Sunday of every month. And both of them, this is a completely no cost event. We just do this for expanding our wisdom and learning from the wisdom of Ahalya. The clinic is by donation, so whatever people feel like they can give for extraction healing, which is an energy modality that removes energy from the healing body so that your body can heal quicker, your emotions can heal quicker, your mind can heal quicker. We have All of the mystery school shamanic practitioners are the people that do that shamanic clinic. So we would love to see all of you there on the second Tuesday of the month and the last Sunday of the month. And again, you guys were just a really great group. So I appreciate everybody taking the time today to be with us.